Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn presented by Virginia Community Capital. I am Melody Short, Community Innovation Advisor, and I'm so excited to have each of you join us today to learn more about the small business lending through VCC and just generally speaking in ways in which you can set your business up for success. I will be sharing some valuable information with you at the end of the session regarding our Economic Equity Fund. I'm super excited about sharing those details if you're not familiar with that resource. So be sure to stay on until the end to learn more about that, again, immediate resource that is available to you. Before we continue, just a few housekeeping rules. We are recording the webinar and we will send you the link to all that have registered next week for your records and just to refer back to the information being shared. And also, if you have questions, please don't be shy. We ask that you submit those questions in the Q&A feature located in the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Don't submit it via the chat because it can get lost in the chat box. Again, any questions that you may have, do not be shy. Now is a great opportunity to ask experts if you are interested in small business lending, but go ahead and throw those questions in our Q&A feature. Again, located in the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. And so we want to go ahead and get right into it. We came up with this concept of putting together this lunch and learn because a lot of small businesses are in the space of seeking lending for their business, loan opportunities for their business. But we've discovered a lot of those entrepreneurs are not familiar with what's required and what lenders are looking for. And so we want to make sure our small business community here in Richmond, that you're prepared and you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed. And so thanks to our guest speaker today, Joey Barnes. He's a small business lending manager. He will share ways in which you can prepare for a small business loan, just generally speaking. But again, at the end of the session, I will speak more directly to the opportunity that's available through Virginia Community Capital. So Joey, without further ado, we ask that you take it away.
Wonderful, and thank you, Melody. And again, we'd like to thank everybody for attending the Lunch and Learn today. And we hope that it'll help each business owner just understand the lending process just a little bit better and make that process not as frightening. Next slide. And I believe it's important for you as a business owner to understand why VCC is passionate about helping small business owners and their success. So in telling you that, I'd like to share with you first our vision and then our mission. So our vision is to be the first choice for innovative capital and collaborative leadership, promoting vibrant local communities and enhancing the quality of life. Our mission is to support housing and community development ventures, increase jobs, and build sustainable communities by offering flexible products and advisory services. Next slide. We have products and services. Basically, we have three services, and they are lending, advisory services, and investing. Today is part of our presentation is part of the advisory services. On the lending side, we have real estate, affordable housing, small business, which I'm responsible for, healthy food, and clean energy. Just to give you some idea of the social impact that we've had since our inception, which has really been 15 years. That $1.8 billion of total impact is the value of VCC's lending and investing in projects when leveraged with funding from other partners as well as sources. We've loaned out $709 million in loans and a total of 954 total projects financed. We've helped create or retain 11,703 jobs. I won't read the entire slide, but I will ask you to look to the far right where it says 15,615 megawatt hours of clean energy produced. to put that in layman's terms, that's enough energy to power an average of 1,300 homes for an entire year. Okay, so now the remaining portion of my presentation will actually be what everyone signed on for. And so to give you a brief overview, I'm going to talk about debt versus equity financing, preparation for your business, your budgets, and your projections, as well as how financial institutions analyze credit. So first, let's talk about the debt portion. And so define terms for repayment regardless of your performance. And basically what that means is if you borrow funds, let's just say for a new company van, so the terms that you've agreed to with your financial institution, the expectation is that you will make those repayments on the terms that you've agreed to, which is usually a monthly payment, regardless of your performance. So if your business is doing great or not so great, the expectation is for you to make those repayments. Collateral and guarantees. And so collateral would be what banks would secure in order to make the loan for you. In my previous example of a van for your business, the collateral would actually be your van. And when we say guarantees, usually that guarantee is you as the business owner giving a personal guarantee. And we get a lot of calls saying, hey, can my business just borrow the funds and not me personally? And 99% of the time, the answer is no. And the reason being is you are your business. So an example would be Joey Barnes Painting. Well, that business I'm the owner. And if something happens with Joey Barnes, then the business's ability to repay the loan goes away. And so lenders want to make sure that you as a borrower are as invested in your project as we are. When we talk about debt, it's conservative, it's low risk and low return. And I know we often hear, wow, rates are high. But if from a banker's perspective, we have to actually go out and borrow those funds. So let's say the funds cost us 2% to buy, and then we charge you as a borrower 5%. So our spread, or the funds that we make on loans, really would be 3%. So it's really low risk because banks and financial institutions are conservative and low return. On the other hand, we have equity, and that's ownership, and that's sharing in profit and control. That would be you as an owner and anyone who has gone into business with you. Now, once you have equity in a business and you started it, there is no recourse if the business fails. The funds that you've invested or put into that, they go away. Typically, that's high risk, but it's a higher return. The reason that it's high risk is because if the business fails, then your investment goes away. The high return is if your business is successful, you get to take all of the profits and reinvest in your business or expand your business. Let's talk about your viable business. So for a new business, if you're thinking of starting a company, these are some of the things that financial institutions are going to be looking for: a project budget, projections, a business plan, and proof of your concept. Now, I'm going to talk about the project budget and projections a little bit later, but let's delve into a business plan. And so the recommendation is not that you go out and that you spend a lot of money on buying a business plan that you're only going to throw into your desk drawer and never look at again. So with a business plan, it's one that you truly, as the business owner, need to be invested in, and it's truly your roadmap to success. The assumption all right, so now with those projections, the assumption behind those projections, so if you're starting a company and you say that it's going to make $1.5 million in the first year, How did you get there? What research did you do? What market research? What other businesses in that same industry have those type of results? Your market assessment and your sales plan. Again, whatever you're predicting, you've got to be able to show in that business plan how you got there. And then your management plan. So who's leading the business? Who are the co-owners? And what's your management team look like? The recommendation is, if you can, have a separate board of directors for your business who can give you objective advice and feedback on your business and how it's progressing. Because if we have a management team and it's all family members and we're all passionately invested in that business, we may not be as objective as someone from the outside. And then finally, proof of concept. And that is, has the business been done before? Are there other small businesses that are successful with your concept? And it's okay if not, but the financial institution that you are looking for lending from is going to delve a little bit deeper if you don't have a proof of concept, something that's been successful previously. Now let's talk about existing businesses. And I realize that you as a business owner, or all business owners, think that we as bankers and financial institutions ask for way too much information. So today I'm going to try to share a little bit with you as to why we ask for that information. And so if you are an existing business, we're looking for the last 3 years business tax returns, or all since the filing if it's less than 3 years. And what we're looking for in those returns are, can you afford the loan that you're requesting? And how has your business performed over the last 3 years? Now, I understand that 2020 was an anomaly and really into 2021 because of COVID-19, but banks still want to see what you've done previously. And I like to tell borrowers, banks look in the rearview mirror to see if you can go forward with your lending request. A lot of times CPAs will tell you, hey, don't pay taxes, do not show profit. The more profit you show, the more taxes you pay. That might work in saving you tax dollars, but it won't help when you come to borrow funds. And the reason being, if you're showing negative net income and you're showing a loss, and I have it all the time, business owners will say, but you know I'm making money, just don't want to pay taxes. Well, we're governed by the OCC, and what they look at is how we are making decisions on loans, and those decisions are based on profit and cash flow. If you're not showing that you can afford it, we can't make a loan, because when they come to audit us, they're going to say, why did you make this loan? Because you knew the business couldn't afford it. So unfortunately, if you're going to borrow funds, you're going to need to bite the tax bullet and actually show profit. For nonprofits, we're looking for your 990s. We also look for the most recent interim financials. And what does that entail? Your balance sheet, your profit and loss statements, accounts receivable and accounts payable agings when necessary. The balance sheet shows us the strength of your company. And a lot of times when we're looking at that, we're looking for your fixed assets. We're looking for your short-term assets. And we're also looking at your liabilities. So when you come to borrow, we want to make sure that the company's not too leveraged or has too much debt out. In that profit and loss statement, we truly want to see what your cost of goods sold are, and we want to see the amount of profit that you're making so that we can truly make a good financial decisions. The reason that we ask for accounts receivable and accounts payable, we want to know if your accounts receivable or the customers that you billed, if you truly can collect on those receivables. And also, we want to see if the accounts payable, and when we look at an aging, if you're paying your vendors on time. I'll give you an example of accounts receivable. So let's take into account, I'm going to jump back to the Super Bowl last year with Tampa Bay and Kansas City. So a lot of the t-shirt vendors, they printed world champion Tampa Bay Bucks. They also printed world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Well, they have accounts receivable for those shirts. Well, the ones for Tampa Bay are collectible, but who's going to buy a world champion Kansas City Chiefs t-shirt? And so in looking at accounts receivable aging, if you have those in your accounts receivable, they aren't collectible. And so that's why banks ask for accounts receivable agings. And background and your history of the business. As much information as you can share with your financial institution about your business, the better, because that enables a lender or a loan officer to paint a better picture for underwriting and saying the business was started here, the business they've been in business for 10 years, they've been able to sustain with several ebbs and flows in the economy. This is how they stack up against their competitors. So as much information as you can share with the financial institution, please do so. And as promised a little earlier, I wanted to talk about project budget. And so it's really important for you to be as detailed as possible in your budget, because it gives the lender confidence that you've thought about how you're going to use the funds that you borrow. And one thing that is very important to remember, especially if you're doing a purchase or an expansion, choosing an experienced general contractor to do the work. And when I say experienced general contractor, he or she is one that has a resume of projects like the one that you're considering. And so if they tell you, oh, I can do this expansion, but they can't show you where they've done one that's similar, you may want to keep shopping for a contractor, because in expansion projects, the riskiest part is during the construction, because with each change order, the price goes up. As everyone knows now with COVID, it may be difficult to get products in. So as detailed as you can possibly be, that is good. And in this particular illustration, it shows total project cost, but it also shows the owner's 20% into the project and then the financing need at the end. So always be aware that with every project, the financial institutions are going to ask you for an owner's contribution or that equity. And the reason being is if you have skin in the game, so to speak, you're less likely to walk away from a project. For projections, 2 years of P&L broken out monthly, and that's identifying your expenses, as well as justifying revenues with proof of your concept, experience, market assessment, and sales plans. We see it quite often with businesses. They'll come in and they will say, hey, we're looking to expand. We need $150,000. And so we'll say, okay, Mr. and Ms. Customer, please bring us some projections showing, number one, that you need the expansion, and number two, kind of what happens after the expansion. And it sometimes seems like it's a difficult task, but it'll let you as a business owner really delve into the numbers to see, okay, do I really need this or can I really afford this? And a lot of times with the projections, we'll see where a company has made, let's say, $500,000 a year for the last 3 years. And their projections will jump into $2.5 million the next year, $3 million the following year. And the question becomes, okay, how are you going to do that? What market assessment shows you that your sales are going to jump that high? And realistically, financial institutions, including VCC, just really want to know if you've thought through it and if the projections make sense. Okay, analyzing credit requests. And so what we're looking for as a bank is sources of repayment. How are you going to be able to pay this loan back? First and foremost, cash flow from your business. Secondly, collateral to secure the loan. And then thirdly, personal guarantees, which we've talked about. Now, I did not have a slide on this, but your personal credit is very important. There's not, and a lot of times clients will say, well, what number do I have to have? Okay, so there's not a specific number needed for approval, but generally speaking, scores north of 650 are more favorable. And banks are going to look at your history to determine how you've managed credit in the past. And so when I'm sitting down and I'm speaking with a client and we're talking and they go, I think my credit score is in the mid fives, so maybe 575. Okay. And so my question is, how'd you get to a 575? Well, everybody has extenuating circumstances. And if you're able to explain those extenuating circumstances, sometimes banks will be able to help. Now, if those extenuating circumstances are that you just decided not to pay, then the outcome may be a little different. To the right, when we say, when we use government guarantee or other credit enhancements, and we will be able to, when it says use a government guarantee, that's usually the Small Business Administration, better known as the SBA. And that's on projection-based deals or deals that we have a collateral shortfall or requests where the guarantor does not add strength to the request. So we might be able to help with the Small Business Administration, or we may be able to help with the Economic Equity Fund, which Melody is going to share with us a little bit later. How do we value collateral? So our collateral valuation. So, and what we've put here on this slide is an example of typical loan to value policies of banks. Now, they're going to be a little different with every bank, but by and large, they're going to be somewhere near this. So if you're looking to purchase new equipment, the expectation is for you probably to have 25% down on your own. For used equipment, we typically do 50% net book value. For commercial real estate, it's usually 75 to 85%. So we're going to be expecting a down payment anywhere from 15 to about 25%, depending on the industry, depending on age of the real estate. Inventory can be as low as 10%. It can be higher, but it really depends on the industry. Again, accounts receivable. It depends on the receivable. It can be as low as 10, but up to 75%. Marketable securities. So if you have investments that you want to use as collateral, banks will typically use up to 90%. And if you're purchasing a new business, you can expect to put anywhere from 15 to about 40% of your own equity or cash into the request. Now, based on credit, cash flow, and conditions, these numbers may be up a little or down a little, but generally speaking, they're going to be in this range. Some additional costs that you need to think about when you're purchasing commercial real estate over $250,000, there's typically going to be an appraisal required. And those appraisals run anywhere from $2,500 up to about $4,000, depending on the property, and a phase one. And so phase one is an environmental inspection. And those can run as high as $5,000. And let's hope when they do the environmental that there's no spillage or you don't have any contamination on your property, because then it moves to a phase two and it gets more expensive. Also, with business acquisitions over $250,000, typically we're going to ask for a business valuation. So we're going to have an outside third party come in and review. I'm going to say do a forensic review of the financial statements to make sure that what you think you're buying, you're actually buying. And those costs typically $2,500, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, depending on the business. Your project sources and uses. And so in this example, total sources and total uses would be $249,800. So the bank would be putting in 226, and you as the customer would be putting in 23,750. So again, being able to explain to the bank what the funds are being used for. So you're going to buy new equipment, that's going to cost you $85,000. And you're going to refinance some of your company debt for $162,300. And they've even considered potential closing costs. If you are presenting a request to a bank and you talk to them about the sources and uses and where their funds are going, that typically or usually helps us get more comfortable with what you're trying to accomplish, because we know that you've thought through it. And we got this question early on when we first came up with the concept. So in an application package, what is it that I need? Okay, I just talked about a breakdown of the use of funds. That's good. Where is the money going? 3 years federal tax returns for your company. And that's all pages, all schedules. A lot of business owners will want to send the first 3 or 4 pages. Well, if you send us the full tax return, there are times when we can go into your schedules and find additional income that your CPA has included for you or that you haven't thought about that might help you get the loan approved. The most recent interim financials, which are that P&L and balance sheet that I talked about, and includes your accounts receivable, if applicable, that we spoke about a little earlier. 2 years projections for the company with the explanation of those projections. Again, where are you going? Where do you see your company going? And how do you see your company getting there? Are your revenue and expenses going to be about the same as previous years? Or will this expansion or will this loan make you more profitable? If so, how? Also, if you are buying and selling, get us a copy of that agreement so that we can review it. Because there's sometimes things in there that the purchaser hasn't really thought about, and your lender will uncover and be able to send you back to that seller with a few additional questions. Also, a letter of intent. So if you're looking to buy a new location or lease, we'd like to see that letter of intent so we understand the terms. 3 years federal tax returns for all guarantors. And when we say guarantors, usually anybody with 20% ownership of a company or more will be required to guarantee. A personal financial statement for all guarantors. And a personal financial statement is just a snapshot of your assets and your liabilities. That's one of the very first things that underwriters look to when you make a loan request. I'm going to give you an example of a loan that we recently got approved. Client submitted the request and they gave us a personal financial statement. When we looked at the personal financial statement, it didn't show that this customer had enough for the down payment. And so we called the customer and declined him, said, hey, you don't have the cash injection for this project, which we were told, oh, yes, I do. I just gave y'all what I thought y'all needed. So then he circles back and he gives us a financial statement with all of his bank statements that showed ample ability to repay the debt and ample assets. And we were able to take a relook at it and actually get him approved and funded. So please, ma'am, please, sir, personal financial statements, more information is always better. And if you have some difficulty completing them, reach out to your loan officer, reach out to Melody, reach out to someone who can provide some assistance in helping you complete it properly. Also, an authorization to pull credit, because once your taxes are and personal financial statement are reviewed, the lender's going to want to see your credit. And so let us know if you have a block on your credit, or make sure that you take that block off and give us authorization to pull credit. And then finally, if you're a startup, the business plan that I covered a little earlier in the presentation, make sure that it's complete, make sure that it's your own, and make sure that you use it as a roadmap for your success. And finally, again, I'm Joey Barnes. I'm Small Business Lending Manager here at VCC. We have 4 small business loan officers throughout the state. We have 3 offices. We have one in Richmond that houses a small business loan officer as well as an economic equity small business loan officer. We have an office here in Norfolk where I'm housed, and we have an economic equity small business lender. And then we have an office out in Christiansburg where we have a small business loan officer. That's my contact information. If you have any additional questions that Melody can't answer or that you just like to ask, please reach out. And again, thank you for your time today.
Joey, thank you so much for providing us with so much valuable information and essentially just tools for loan preparedness, from showing us, the viability of your business, like what's required to do so, and standard documents financial institutions require when you're looking to secure a loan, and more. I see that we have some questions, which is super exciting, because now is the time to ask questions specific to your business. And so let's go into the Q&A box. All right, so the first question is, do current paying clients count as proof of concept? Do current paying clients count as a proof of concept?
Possibly. And what I mean is do you have just that one client, or do you have a couple? It really depends on the situation. But also proof of concept is, have other businesses been successful at what you are trying to accomplish? And if it's not a startup and you've been in business for several years, then you've proven that the concept may work, because especially if you're profitable. I'm hoping I answered that, Melody.
Thank you, Joey. The next question is, do current paying clients count as proof of concept?
Possibly.
Almost.
Isn't that very similar to the first?
Yeah, and I think yeah. So let me just, that the business owner that asked that question, if you had another version of that question that you wanted to ask, just throw that in the chat. And I see that he does have more questions at the end, so it may come up. I file a Schedule C on my personal taxes. Does that count as business tax returns?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it does. If you file a Schedule C, as long as you're filing, yes, we can look at that Schedule C and determine the income and expenses that you've had for your business.
Wonderful. Does VCC ever consider EBITDA when evaluating profits in the loan application process?
Yes. And EBITDA is, what is it? Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. We absolutely do.
Do you recommend applying for an SBA loan from 2 different banks, or one after the other if the first one is not approved? Are there advantages of some banks over others for this type of loan, or are they pretty much the same?
Okay, great question. So first I'll say, with the SBA, if you apply for an SBA loan at VCC, Wells Fargo, Town Bank, wherever you apply, all of the rules for the SBA are the same across the board. So if you were declined by the SBA at Town Bank, coming to VCC won't make a difference if it was an SBA decline. Okay, so that's the first, but we're going to put a push pin into that, because as you are out prospecting banks and business owners, prospect banks just like banks prospect you. So find out if you have a specific business, if banks are lending in that industry and which banks are lending in that industry. And that would be the first bank or the first couple of banks that you would take your lending package to. So the thought is, if you apply for a loan and you're declined by a certain bank, if it's that bank standards versus the SBA, then you absolutely can try another bank. But if it was declined by the SBA, coming to another bank won't help, because the rules apply across the board. And to circle back on interviewing banks, talk to different banks again and find out if they've done projects like the one that you are requesting, And you definitely want to start with those financial institutions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joey. The next question is, I am a small business service provider, as are my clients. Do you offer loans without collateral in the range of 15,000 to 25,000?
Not usually. And that's just our usual minimum loan is about 25,000 here at the bank. And I know that that's a challenging space, that dollar amount. The thought for that dollar amount usually is there a corporate credit card? Or do you have any type of collateral that you can provide? But unsecured, especially given COVID, especially given kind of where we are in the economy, that's challenging. And what I've noticed is the lenders, and I call them lenders, but they aren't really banks that are doing a lot of unsecured. The rates are just astronomical. And it's because it's unsecured.
Thank you, Joy. Does submitting a business plan with an application for a loan help my chances of getting a loan? Which I know you covered some of that in your presentation, but if you wanted to expand on that a bit.
Hate to be vague, but it depends. And so if you have a solid business plan, and when a lender looks at the business plan, we can tell that you've put research into it. We can tell that you've planned. It may help. Okay, so if you have a loan that's close, that's on the fence, a business plan may help push it across. If you have a loan that's not really good at all, a business plan is not going to be able to take it from second base to across home plate. But definitely if you have it and it's really a close loan and it's kind of on the fence, a really good business plan probably will tilt it in your favor.
All right, next question. How to access credit for a profit turning young business? So this business owner has been in business for 3 years, but owner went through personal chapter 13 due to COVID. We do not show a profit last year due to COVID, but have in previous years. Can we get a 7A loan?
I'm pretty sure the bankruptcy is going to put a halt to the SBA, getting an SBA loan if you file for bankruptcy. And financial institutions are going to, if you file for bankruptcy, are going to look that you've reestablished credit. So that's a really challenging one because you did it due to COVID, but now you've got to try to show that you've reestablished credit. So that's one I'd ask that you sit down with Melody, myself, or a financial institution and kind of talk through why you filed for bankruptcy and your plan to get out and your plan moving forward. But that is definitely going to be a challenge, and I'm going to say that that would probably be a hard stop for the SBA. And Melody, this wasn't asked, but we understand that a lot of businesses struggled last year and early this year with COVID, with the fact that the government told us we couldn't work, that we had to be home, things like that. As you're applying and thinking about borrowing, please be able to articulate how that affected you and what your business was doing prior to COVID and what your business is doing post-COVID. That story in the middle is more important than ever.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joy. So another variation of this asks, in this climate, what lending options are available to businesses who have utilized bankruptcy protection to stay afloat? So essentially you're saying it's kind of case by case and you need to have a one-on-one conversation with the lender to get, give more details as to why and what you're doing to get yourself out of this. Okay. The next question is, any advice to startups without a real track record yet? Which I think is really good because this is a thing that I've shared with you, Joe, and other colleagues at VCC. It's like, how can we essentially get small businesses prepared so when they are ready or they are in need of some additional lending, what can they be doing right now to establish that track record, to establish the business credit, do all the things so when they need it, there's no scramble that's happening.
The best thing to do now is, now this is a relatively new business that is showing success. first thing you want to do at this particular point is start building a relationship with a loan officer. And probably the fastest one is wherever you're holding your deposits. But literally reach out, start interviewing banks now. Give banks a call, find out what criteria they require. Do they lend in your industry? How successful have they been lending in your industry? And as you're growing, make sure that you are showing that profit, you're showing your income, and you're able to articulate how your business is growing with the loan officer. So essentially, you want to start building relationships with more than one financial institution right now, and ask them, okay, so what does my cash flow need to look like in 18 months for me to borrow $100,000? What does my cash flow need to look like in 2 years for me to borrow $500,000? Whatever it is that you need to borrow, find out what your cash flow needs to look like. Okay, so that EBITDA, the question that you asked me earlier, or basically net income. What net income covers this debt? And then once you have that, start driving your business to exceed that number, that net income number. So when you are ready to borrow, you've already kind of gotten over that hurdle, and make sure that you are protecting your credit and that you are paying your vendors on time and you're paying your other creditors on time. And those steps will help you build toward being able to borrow in the next 18 months or so.
Thank you, Joy. I want to go ahead and also mention we do have, organization as part of the entrepreneur ecosystem here that has advised Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. They do have loans available from $5,000 to $50,000. So if you all look in the chat, Karen has included her contact information. So we thank you, Karen, for being a resource and sharing your information with us. I think we have about 2 more questions. With businesses in recoup mode after COVID, is there consideration to changing the credit and other requirements to meet businesses where they are? I love that.
Yes. And Melody is your resident expert and person that can assess and connect you with VCC and other resources. So there is definitely an attempt to meet businesses where they are. Yes.
And I would say, again, this information is being presented, like just generally speaking, but, I have to say Virginia Community Capital is really good with, being a bit more flexible sometimes, just kind of depending on the situation. So we just say, reach out, share your specifics, where you are specifically, and we will do our best to help. And if it's, if we can't help right now at this moment in time, we'd also be able to pair you up with technical assistance to get you better prepared. And once you dot those I's and cross those T's, come back around, and the goal is to get you funded. Next question, on Form 1919, it defines affiliation. I own 2 LLCs 100%. So would my other business count as an affiliate? If so, okay, so let me start with that part of the question.
Okay, so you own several businesses. So then my question would be, are the businesses connected in any way? So do you own one business that is dependent upon the other business for success? If the answer is no, you don't have to count that as an affiliation. If the answer is yes, you do.
Okay. So if that answer is yes, under Q8, has a small business applicant and or its affiliates ever obtained a direct or guaranteed loan from SBA or any other federal agency or been a guarantor on such a loan?
And so that is basically, have you had another SBA loan or have you had another government subsidized loan? The answer is yes, check yes. If the answer is no, then it's no.
Okay. All right. All right, I think we've answered that question. I'm just going to see if we have any others. This has been great, Joey. I mean, I'm so happy that we are recording this. So Like I said, all of our registered attendees, you'll receive this recorded session via email next week. And so you can reference it at any given time. I think we have one more question, and then I have some closing information to share. One more question. Does an EIDL loan or PPP loan count?
I guess my question
I
is
guess you got to be a bit more specific. Yeah. So
okay. It does not count. Oh.
No, I was going to ask the business owner that asked the question. Do you need more information, Joey, or?
We need a little bit more information on that one. Yes, Melody.
Okay. All right. I'll see if they'll expand upon their question. While we were waiting for that attendee to expand upon his question, I would love to welcome, we talk a lot about resources within the small business community here in Richmond. And so one of the resources that is, really where small businesses should start is the Office of Minority Business Development. And so I'm so happy to have Ms. Pat Foster join us. They presented this session with us today. Always like to use, this time and space as an opportunity to remind folks of the resources that are available through the Office of Minority Business Development. So Ms. Pat, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I know we just appreciate your time because everybody's pulling at you.
Well, it's
so grateful.
It's really good. It's always good when we can talk a little bit about what we're doing in the city of Richmond to help minority and small businesses. One thing we do, our mission, when we talk about that first, our mission is to build the capacity of small businesses. And what that really means in layman terms, or it boils down to, how do we get businesses to make more money? How do we get them to be successful? And if we look at it from the standpoint of the city, we have taken two approaches, really. One is that we do it by putting goals on the procurement that the city spends. So whatever they buy, we say, okay, if you're spending $100,000, we want 25%, at least 25% to go to a minority business. And so that way it gives minority and small businesses an opportunity to grow because it increases their revenue. The other thing is that we are getting more and more specific about that. The city is really growing that way. But before I go any further, when we talk about the goals for the city, the one thing we have to do is to solicit the help of the community, the small businesses in the minority community, because we need to make sure that they register with us. That is something that we are going all out for this year because we got a new software to help us monitor how registration goes about. Hopefully it makes it a little bit easier and hopefully it gives them more opportunities to make more money. Now, the reason why registration is so important is because it is tied directly into goals. If we want to put a 25% goal on a project or a 30% goal or a 5% goal, we have to have the minorities and the small businesses that can do that. And we have to go to our database and find people that can do it because there's no need of us putting a goal on a procurement if there's no one to do it. And unless businesses sign up, we have no way of finding out that they are available. And what we're doing, the city is making us even more accountable for minority participation and growing that business. We are now working on departmental goals, which means every department in the city will be responsible for obtaining a goal that is assigned to them. Again, based on what they're buying, their goal will be assigned to them. And so we're going to make them more accountable to do this. And so that means it gives minority businesses more opportunity to participate. Now, the city currently spent over $33 million in minority and small businesses last fiscal year. Everybody should want a piece of that pie. My goal is to double that. I don't know how long it'll take me to do it, but that represented only 10% of what the city bought. Okay, and those are qualified purchases, which means some procurements did not have any goals on there because we could not find minorities to do it. And so we can make a big difference to help ourselves by first registering with the city so that we can make sure that we can give you opportunities to make more money. And the second thing is, and I'm going to hurry up because I know you're on a time period, is our technical assistance. So we use goals and we use technical assistance to help build businesses, because the more you know, the better you are and more likely that you will be successful. And I heard someone just ask a question about, are we going to be changing the traditional ways of qualifying for loans? And that's really my calling. That's what I want to do. I always felt that the better the business is in success, we need to measure what is their likelihood of success. And if we can help you build your business by teaching you and putting you in classes and doing mentorship programs and helping you learn more about your business, then that can take away some of the risk that a loan officer would have on allowing you to borrow for them, because their main objective is to get their money back. And so now we have to show how we can make sure they get their money back. And so by building your capacity, making you more aware of what you do, then that will make sure the risk is reduced in you paying back the loan. And so we do this by classes, we do it by workshop. And the one thing that we're doing, because what happened through COVID is that we are going to reach out and have partners like VCC and Melody. Melody is on so many different things that when we get her, we get a whole tribe of villagers right there. And so what we want to do is create what we call our Office of Minority Business ecosystem, where we're helping businesses by getting partners to help them. We want them to register with us. We want to help do an assessment and find out where their businesses are, and then help direct them or navigate them to resources that will benefit. And part of that is because we have found out that during this pandemic, that more businesses need one-on-one coaching and mentoring and developing. And so we're trying to spend a lot of our time doing one-on-one and using our partners and collaborating with them to do more of the workshops and the classes and the other things that need to be done, like this wonderful webinar on financing that you just heard today. And so in other words, make us your first stop. Find out what it is that we can do. If we can't do it, we're going to help navigate you to someone that can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pat. We appreciate your time and just sharing, the resources that are available out of Office of Minority Business Development. We encourage everyone that's joining us today to, visit the website for Office of Minority Business Development, visit their, well, Ms. Pat, are you all taking walk-ins now or by appointments for?
We're still by appointments, only
by
because
appointments.
of COVID. We're doing by appointment. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Yep. So
but
you can,
we can do face-to-face and we can do virtual, whatever is convenient for the business.
Okay. So please, 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 if you've not visited already the website for Office of Minority Business Development, you can learn more about the resources, schedule your appointment, and take advantage. They are there. They have been created for you. We just need people to take advantage of the resources that are available. We are hopeful that you are leaving this Lunch and Learn feeling more empowered and confident to proceed with seeking loan opportunities for your business. At Virginia Community Capital, we're excited to share information on our Economic Equity Fund. So in 2020, so last year, we developed a $10 million loan fund that provides low cost financing for small minority and women-owned businesses that are disproportionately affected by the economic impact of this pandemic. In addition to low interest loans for eligible borrowers, resources have been allocated to provide free technical assistance and consulting for eligible small businesses and community-based partners. So this year, VCC in 2021, we secured some additional funding to further support this program. This is our, again, Economic Equity Fund. So excited to be a part of this, this resource that's available to you. We encourage you to learn more about the eligibility requirements by visiting us online at VACommunitycapital.org. When you go to our website, click on our impact and then click on Economic Equity Fund. You can also email me directly to schedule a time to talk, to learn more, to share more about your business, to see if you qualify, and so that we can tell you what steps to take so that you can qualify. I can be reached at mshort@vccva.org. Again, mshort@vccva.org. You'll see that on the website. We thank you so much again for your time. We welcome you to share with the small business community the date of our next Lunch and Learn, where we will continue this dialogue, which will take place on Thursday, September 30th at 12 p.m. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you soon.